Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I'm back with a stepped up emergency card video. We are using emergency card kit number 10. These are anniversary and wedding sentiments. So we have 2 pages, one with circles, one without. And then this is a new size. It's 2 3/4 by 3 3/4 for some sentiments. And mostly we're using the card sketch. I will link to the original video below if you want a clear walkthrough of what's in the kit and how to use the kit. But the goal here is to make it a little extra special. So I have my card base and a piece of pattern paper that's A2. And then this is a piece I cut from the Slim Nested Stitch Scallops from scrapbook.com. I used the largest one. And then I have a piece of white shimmer cardstock that is that 2 3/4 by 3 3/4 and then a 2-inch circle. So I'm adding my pattern paper. It's just an A2 piece of pattern paper onto my card base and it will cover the entire thing, right? I adore this paper. It's so gorgeous, but it's also a little busy. So this layout actually works beautifully to sort of tone that down a little bit. This Slimline die, I just had this in my stash and I was kind of playing around. You know, I love scallops. I've been going on about them for a couple of videos now. And I snagged this and I was like, what if? It fits perfectly. I did not design this sketch around this die. It just happened to work. If you have a Slimline die in your stash and it does scallops or stitching or something interesting, like try it, see what happens. And then leave us a comment below to let me know what you used that worked well. Or if you post it to social media, tag me at Sassy's LLC. I would love to see it. By the way, everybody, I'm on Instagram. And I would love to have you follow me on Instagram. I sometimes post cards over there that don't get a video, so there's a little like extra bonus content. I just added my shimmer cardstock to my light blue scalloped piece that I trimmed down using my trimmer just so it would hit that top edge of the white shimmer cardstock. I will punch out this We Belong Together using my 1 3/4 inch EK Success punch. And I will add that temporarily onto my purple 2-inch circle. That way, if I decide to change the sentiment later, I can do that very, very easily. But this is just a slightly stepped up version of the original card. This one, I love it. I think it's beautiful. And we're gonna put this fun pop-up feature on the inside. I can't wait. I have a top folding A2 card base in a dark purple. If you want to do the pop-up feature, it does need to be top folding, but you could also just glue down the inside piece and that would be fine, and you could use a side folding. I have a piece of shimmer cardstock that is A2 size. These are the essential arches from Spellbinders. I've skipped the 5 largest and cut the next 2. So it's the 6th and 7th largest of these arches and they will nest together just beautifully. This is the Sunny Studios Scalloped Circle Mats and I cut the 2nd largest scalloped circle and we'll use that as our mat layer. This piece is 1 1/4 by 3 inches. That's going to be the mechanism for our pop-up feature. I promise the pop-up is so easy. This is 3 by 3 7/8 and then I have cut out this little piece from page 3 of our emergency card kit. There are instructions on the top of how to cut that out, but you can also just watch the previous video where we kind of walk through all of that together. I'm using the 4 Petals Floral Embossing folder for this. And this white shimmer cardstock from Michaels is pretty thin, so I'm not adding any water. I'm just lining it up sort of at the bottom of the embossing folder because there's this panel in the middle where you could add a sentiment. Well, we're gonna cover that up. I'm using my Beacon 3-in-1 to add this to my card base. It's going to cover the entire thing. I really want to shellac this on here because the paper is not very thick and there's a ton of deep embossing. And so this is a solvent-based glue. It's not going to add any moisture. Nothing's going to warp. It's not going to get weird. And it really holds it. It adds a little bit of sturdiness to our card. Once that's on there, I am going to layer my arches. Okay, so I'm putting the smaller one and I'm centering it on the top one. We aren't gonna put the entire thing on the card. I didn't want it to cover up quite that much of the florals. They're so beautiful, you guys. I cannot get over this embossing folder. So I am just kind of layering it so it's gonna cover up that opening from the embossed panel. But really, you could do this with anything. Use an embossing folder and then use a different shape instead of just a rectangle to create this panel at the top of your card. See how that looks? Let us know what you did. I am again using the Beacon 3-in-1 just to make sure that's adhered really well. It also gives me excellent float time, excellent wiggle time, okay? So I have everything kind of lined up. I'm checking the back to make sure it looks straight, and I'm gonna use my trimmer to remove that because it's 2 pieces of really, really thick cardstock, and I'm being very careful to make sure I'm not cutting the fold. I mean, that's kind of the part that holds my card together, and it would be totally like me to accidentally cut it in 2. So then I'm adding my sentiment a little differently. It's going to be kind of towards the bottom. I liked it nested just in that sort of loop of the arch. And then this one says, the best is yet to come. And I love this. This is both an excellent sort of wedding sentiment, but also an anniversary sentiment or a birthday sentiment. So I put these out and they're intended for a particular occasion, but I also try to create some flexibility in there too. And that's, anyway, I really enjoy figuring out how else I can use these. This one says, life is an adventure best traveled together. And I am gluing that 2 3/4 by 3 3/4 piece onto my 3 by 3 7/8 inch mat. That is exactly the same as the card sketch. My little piece that is my mechanism, I'm going to score at 1 inch, 1.5 inches, and 2.5 inches. Okay, so it measures originally 3 inches by 1 1/4 inches, and I just scored it 3 times. So I'm folding each of those as a mountain fold. We're going a little bit slowly here because I want to make sure that this is clear for you. It will fold up into a little bitty box. That's the plan. A box is the simplest pop-up mechanism you can have, and I promise this is so easy. We're about to use a fair number of boxes in the next month of videos. I hope you enjoy them. Let me know in the comments if you like little pop-up features. I don't want to do things that are so complicated that you're like, oh, I don't think I can do that. What I'm doing here, I added glue onto one of the 1 inch pieces, and I'm going to center that right in the fold of my card. I'm pressing the card closed just to make sure I have that real secure in there. And then you can see how that's going to fold up into a box. But if I fold the piece in half, it will lay flat against the card. I'm adding glue only to this little 1/2 inch tab, and then I'm going to close the card on top of it. When I glue that to the other side of the card, I want to make sure that the card can fold flat. That way I know it will fit in my envelope. So here, I'm checking everything, I'm making sure it will open. And what's going to happen when we open the card, that box pops up and we are going to float this sentiment right on there. So I'm adding glue onto that top 1 inch tab. It's 1 by 1 1/4 inches. I added glue only to the tab to make sure I'm not accidentally going to glue my sentiment to the bottom base of my card. And you can see, like, look at that. That was super easy. We're just adding a little glue in there. And now I have a little space to write at the bottom, or I can write towards the top. And that's it. I have a pop-up card. This mermaid card. I did not set out to make a mermaid card, but it just sort of happened. I have shimmer cardstock at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. This piece is 3 by 3 3/4, though we're going to change that as we go. A circle that's 2 1/8, so this is an additional circle to the sketch. Then my 2 inch circle I have cut out of this white glitter cardstock. That's from Michael's. It doesn't shed. It's magical. I cut a boatload of these pieces using the Slim Borders dies from scrapbook.com. There's 2 Slim Border sets, so that's like essentially number 1. And then I have this quilted card front from Concord and 9th. I'll link everything below, but see what you have that will do similar things, okay? So I am cutting my white shimmer cardstock with that quilted card front. I love this. It's subtle. It's just a little extra something in the background. So I have some shimmer, I have some texture, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and glue that panel straight onto my A2 card base. Mine is top folding, but it wouldn't have to be. I like the wet glue. You know I do. It gives me that little bit of wiggle time that works really, really well here. So once I get that all secured down, I am going to use my 3 by 3 3/4 inch panel, and I'm going to tape that to my work surface. I'm using the grids on my mat to try to make sure that that's straight, because we're going to add a whole bunch of these scalloped strips to this panel. Essentially what happens is I am going to fill up this 3 3/4 inch panel. I'm going to lay it on top of the card. I'm going to decide I don't really like it. It's not enough. And so I'm going to add another piece. Essentially, I would cut this white piece to like 3 by 5 1/4, maybe even 5 1/2, and you can always trim off the top just to be safe. All I'm doing is adding a little bead of glue onto the white cardstock, and then I am staggering these scallops. So you can kind of see at the peak, that sort of wave peak into the scallop, I'm not quite touching that. There's a little bit of cardstock that I am leaving open, okay? And I will put the sort of bump, the largest part of the scallop, right against the peak of the previous one. Once I get a couple layers, I'm going to flip it over and use my scissors to trim that off so I can continue using the same pieces. These are Slimline, right? These are almost 8 1/2 inches. So actually, I didn't have to cut that many pieces. I love, this was a happy accident that I figured this out. I use really heavyweight cardstock, and I was able to cut through 2 pieces of 100-pound cardstock in a single pass. Okay, so I can get 2 sort of pieces of my panel from 1 strip, and I got 2 strips from 1 run through the die cut machine. So 1 pass through the die cut got me essentially 4. I don't know, that was very mathy. Maybe you followed it. Here's where I was like, I don't think I like just the short panel, because I had cut that to sort of follow the sketch. So I just cut some additional white cardstock to extend this, and I'm laying it, it's temporarily secured right above it on my grid mat, and I'm just going to continue the pattern. I edited it out where I accidentally glued something out of order. I just ripped that piece out and tucked a new one in there. Because it's just that one little bead of glue, I was able to fix it pretty easily, but I'm trying not to make videos that are too long all the time. Anyway, sometimes I succeed at that. So I'll add my last little bead of glue and my last little scallop piece. And again, I'm going to kind of trim everything down. And now I have 2 panels, but really if you cut that white cardstock, you would have bigger, you would have 1 panel. I want the scallops at the bottom and then that background kind of peeking through. So I'm going to start with that, and I'm centering it on the panel, and then I will take this piece and sort of layer it on top. It's going to overhang, that's fine. I will trim it off. If you don't want to go layering a bunch of scallop pieces together, then, you know, do something else. Create a pattern paper panel here, or see what other sort of slimline dies you have that might add a little extra texture or pattern. You don't have to stick exactly to the sketch. I know you guys know that. You tell me that in the comments all the time. But if you're changing it up, I would love to know what you did, right? My brain really gets cooking on some of these sometimes, but other times I sit here and I really struggle to come up with ways to stretch this sketch. So tag me on social media or tell me in the comments what you did. We would all love to hear. It would be super, super awesome. I am adding my white glitter cardstock, that's 2 inches, onto the 2 1/8 inch light blue circle. I didn't pick that size, you know, for any particular reason other than I have a giant bin of circles that I've cut out. That was actually a leftover scrap from something else. And then this one says, here's to many more, and I will again use my temporary adhesive. I tend to put it on the sentiment if I'm going on to glitter cardstock because it doesn't want to stick to glitter cardstock straight from the dispenser. But that's my card. I love the colors and the texture. I love that it feels like a mermaid. You guys, I just got back from a trip to the ocean and I miss it already. Here's one last look at our 3 card projects. I want to know which one is your favorite. And are you going to try this pop-up feature? Do you love it as much as I do? Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Click that like button, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time.